Hi, Bill here with 30 Minute Wood Shop. Thanks for joining. Today, I want to show you how to make some really cool little decorative lanterns. All right, now like anytime on all my videos, you can go to my blog and you can find a sketch of those, dimension sketch, so you can follow along and make these yourself. What I'm starting with are these fence pickets. Now, fence pickets are really cheap. These things I think cost $2.89 a piece. They're 5/8 thick, okay? And they're 6 foot long, 5.5 inches wide, made out of cedar. Perfect for what we're going to try and do today. So, all that being said, do me a favor, by the way, and right now, don't forget, but hit like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. And let's go over to the saw and start cutting. If you're following the dimension sketch, you'll see we need two pieces, a top and a bottom, that are 8 inches wide. Now these are only 5.5, so I have to do some cutting and some gluing to glue up the panels. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut off a couple sections that are going to be about 8.5 inches long. That gives me a little bit of extra trim up the sides whenever I get done. So let's start cutting. All right, next step in making these panels is I got to make this edge glue joint capable. All right, right now it's a really fuzzy, hairy joint or edge. So what I want to do is I want to run it through. You can see I've got about 2 or 3 teeth above. I just want to skim off enough so that I can make this a nice smooth edge. To do that, I'm using a Forest Woodworker 2. Great blade for this kind of work. It's really, can't say enough about them. They're expensive, but boy, they are good. Also, too, what I've done is ensured that my blade is exactly 90 degrees. I used a Wexy digital indicator here. If you don't have one of these, folks, I'll put a link at the bottom. If you're running a table saw, you really need one of these. So all we're going to do is run these through, skim the edges, and make a really nice glue line joint. And then we'll be able to glue these together. So let's start making the joint. So all we're going to do here, first of all, we want to make sure that that's pretty flush and level. These, when they're made, are not really well done. They're just slopped out really quick, so the thickness isn't always the same side to side. And you can kind of see that here. There's a pretty big lip. If I flip it around, that lip goes away. So make sure that you check the parts side to side, end to end. Now what we're going to do is throw some glue on the edge. I'm using Tight Bond 3. It's a waterproof glue. You don't have to, but there's a good probability for me that these are going to be used outside on the deck or on the patio table. Do a quick scrub. Make sure they're flat. Give it a bit of a squeeze. And there you go. We'll let these sit for a couple hours and we should be good. With the panels glued, next I'm knocking off a bunch of 5/8 wide strips. So basically there's going to be square strips I'm knocking off of this. I'll run it through, so let's make some noise. Well, I need 4 pieces that are 12 3/4 long. And you can see I have a stop block here to give me repeatable cuts. So let's start cutting. I have my 4 cut. Now I need 8 that are 6 3/4. Again, set the stop block 6 3/4 for repeatable cut. One thing you may not have noticed when I was stripping these off, I used pieces without any knots in them. The reason is this gives me a much stronger frame. So keep that in mind if you're doing it. Let's start cutting. So you get a feel for how this is going to look. All I'm going to do is put some glue on the ends, use the nailer, drop a few nails into it, and let the glue dry. With 2 of the frames glued and nailed, I got them stood up on edge, and now I'm going to put the rest of it together so we can make the completed frame. So all I'm going to do here is put some glue on these pieces, stand them up and nail them. Now I need to size my top and bottom. Top and bottom are going to be 8 inches square, so 8 by 8. What I'm doing here as I come through, I kind of want this joint to be in the center. So I've measured out 4 inches, put a line, and then line this line up with my blade. I'll chop this piece off, and because these are identical, I can run this piece through too. I'll flip them around, set it to 8 inches and cut it, and then I'll cut it again, and then I'll cut off this little piece right here to give me 2 8 by 8 chunks for top and bottom. So let's start cutting. With the frame all put together, the top and bottom sized, next thing I want to do here is I want to do some sanding. As I mentioned before, fence pickets are not done to any kind of exacting standard, so there's a little bit of mismatch here. So I'm going to sand that off. I'm using a 60 grit because I still want that rustic rough look. And I'll run through these and let's start sanding. Well, unfortunately the battery died, so you missed the assembly, but it's super simple to do. All it is putting some glue down, dropping some nails in to hold it in place. All right, flipping it over, doing the top, dropping some glue in, dropping a couple nails in, and then gluing on the cap pieces. Really nothing to this. At this point, we have a couple choices. You can leave it as is if you like it. I think it's a little pale. I'm going to throw on some boiled linseed oil just to give it a little more color. But before I do that, I'm going to take and hand sand these corners because they're all pretty sharp. Now, nobody should be able to handle this. This should just sit on the table with a candle in it and some fluffy stuff and just look good. But I want to make sure that these corners are nice and soft in case someone does grab it. So let's get started on doing that, and then we'll go to finishing. So I'll throw some boiled linseed oil on this just so it's not quite so pale. You can see how that turns out. Well, I have to say, I really like how this has darkened up the cedar. I think it's looked really nice. We'll let this coat cure, and then I'll come back and put on a probably second coat. And then we can call this project done. Talk about a fun and easy project. And I really enjoyed making this. Great project. It's cheap to build, very fast and easy to do. Highly recommend this project for building these things for your deck or for indoor decorations or however you want to do that. I like using these outside because I can put electronic candles in them, put them in various places on my deck, and they help illuminate that. If you're going to use a live candle like I have here, make sure it's a short candle because it gets very hot up here. Heat rises, right? You don't want to start a fire. Always keep your eye on it. Do not leave it unattended. Okay? Fire and wood does not mix. Don't do that. Okay, so like I said, I just recommend electronic candles. This is just for demonstration at this point. But these are really cool because you can put them on, on your kitchen table, you can put them on your counter. You can take them out. I usually use them on the deck, on the patio. 3 or 4 of these things, scatter them around with electronic lights. They help add some mood lighting and things. They look really cool, especially in the evening when you're out with friends and guests. So think about making these. If you're interested in making it, jump down to 30minutewoodshop.com. There's a link down at the bottom to my blog. You'll find a dimension sketch there. Go ahead, check that out. Also, while you're down there, you'll find links to various tools and things that I use. You may find those interesting, so, find them fun. Check those out and see what I got. You might find something that you want or you need. Now, if you got something out of this, do me a huge favor, hit like and subscribe. And folks, until next time, good making.